morning shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight with your award-winning host, Dale Davidson. Dale interviews fascinating guests from top-ranked celebrities to people just like you who have an important story to tell. For more than 15 years, Dale is broadcast every week from the fabulous Las Vegas Strip. He finds the people who really make Las Vegas a one-of-a-kind city and lets the world know just what's happening in this remarkable town. You'll discover why 50 million people visit the entertainment capital of the world every year. Stay tuned for another exciting episode of Las Vegas Tonight.
Welcome to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. You're really going to be glad you tuned in today. We've got a very special guest. Kevin Sorbo is joining us via Riverside FM, our version of Zoom. And we're going to have him for three 15-minute segments. We're really pleased that he's agreed to do that. He's certainly the busiest actor in Christian films. Every time I go to the movies, there he is. And every time I go to an event like the National Religious Broadcasters, he's hopping from table to table. He's doing it all, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here. Good to see you again. It's been a while. So I missed the last. I missed the last NRB. My wife and I actually hosted a group of 80 people through a 12-day tour of Israel. So
oh wow,
it was wonderful. We're trying to make it sort of a yearly thing now. We're doing again next year. So
oh, that's great. I'd love to join you.
By the way, they need to go to sorboisraeltrip.com. sorboisraeltrip.com. All kinds of. We're gonna have a great couple weeks in Israel next May.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm gonna put it on my calendar. I've never done it. Never done Israel, and I so want to do it.
It's walking the footsteps of Jesus. It's amazing. It's a wonderful trip.
Oh, that truly is. Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, let's mention your movie. It's called Miracle in East Texas.
Yep.
It is being released October 29th.
Yep.
It'll also appear in theaters on the October 30th. It's a Fathom event.
Yep.
By coincidence, happy divine coincidence, I interviewed your wife Sam and your son Braden back in 2019, I believe it was, right here at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas at the Freedom Fest, and you were getting ready to release it then, and we talked about the movie then, so we're rerunning those shows, by the way, prior to October 29th.
We'll take it.
Tell me what happened with the release.
Well, we were set to go. We had a big theatrical release with it. Then COVID hit, and COVID, as you know, killed theaters for all of 2020 and 2021. You know, just was gone.
I know.
2022 was sort of a recovery, or very slowly. It's really only picked up this year in 2023, where people are starting to really go out to theaters again. So it was brutal, and so we lost those investors because they weren't going to wait 4 years, you know, to jump on board. So we're with Fathom now, and if they're aware of what Fathom does, they're usually only like 2-day releases. So here's the thing of what we want people to do. This is a wonderful movie. It's a true story set in 1930. It's about the largest oil find in the history of the world, right there in the heart of Depression. I directed this movie. I was very fortunate to direct it. I started it along with Sam. She's in it. We got Lou Gossett Jr., we got Tyler Mane, we got the wonderful John Ratzenberger. People remember John as Cliff from the Cheers TV series.
Great character actor.
Yeah, he's the voice in every Pixar movie, but it's a true story about these two con men, played by myself and Mr. Ratzenberger, that went through Oklahoma and Texas, wooing widows out of their money on fake oil wells, and they would sell 500% of the shares, declare a dry hole, and move on to the next city. But, well, ultimately, of course, they struck oil completely by accident, so I'm not giving anything away. It's in the title, Miracle in East Texas. But it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's a comedy. It's based on real life. It's a true story. It's a family movie. It's a fun movie. It's PG rated. They need to go to sorbostudios.com as well, sorbostudios.com. Tickets are on sale right now. And here's the thing. If we can fill up those theaters now, then we'll get more days and more screen times through Fathom. And people are always stopping me saying, hey, I love Hercules and Andromeda, but I really love all these movies you're doing now that are family friendly and faith filled.
Yes.
Well, we need your support. We don't have $100 million advertising budget like they do on these Indiana Jones movies that are bombing right now.
Yeah,
Or,
comic book movies, yeah.
oh yeah, I mean, we don't have that kind of money, so we need word of mouth. That's what made God's Not Dead, the movie I did, such a big hit, was positive word of mouth, and we need that in this movie as well.
Yeah, that was really quite a mark in your career,
Yeah.
I believe, in God's Not Dead, the first one, and that led you into being cast in one Christian movie after another. I know this is a sore subject, but let's broach it. You basically, because of your faith and your conservative views, were shut down in Hollywood, and you've been doing it all yourself since, haven't you?
It's true. I think I was the first victim of cancel culture before it became a term. About a dozen years ago, my manager and agent said that we really can't work with you anymore. Studios aren't going to want to work with you because of the things you're posting on the internet. I go, oh, you mean I'm posting the truth, and that's offensive to people in Hollywood? And that's pretty much what the case was. And I had to laugh because they're the ones who scream for tolerance, right? We see it all the time.
Yes.
Tolerance for this, tolerance for that, and yet it's a one-way street with them. You know, freedom of speech doesn't apply to anybody outside of Hollywood. You have to toe the road that they want you to toe on, or they will blacklist you. And I love the business. I love the industry. So we formed Sorbo Studios, my wife and I, and we've been doing. I've shot over 50 movies since Hollywood got rid of me. Not all of them are good, but most of them are pretty good. So
They really are. Yeah, you do an excellent job.
Thank you.
Is Miracle in East Texas the first movie of Sorbo Studios, or have you done others?
Oh, we got Let There Be Light, which is a good one. Another one
yes.
I did, Cloud 10, though, was the one I just had in theaters last January and February. I directed as well as Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist, which I highly recommend. Left Behind is
Excellent movie.
based on the 80 million selling books that Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins put together. And
Right.
that one is a lot of fun. I've got 2 documentaries coming out later in the year as well that I produced and I'm part of. And so I'm staying busy. I can't complain. It's been it's been a good ride to do the things that I want to do and not worry about Hollywood's restrictions, so to speak.
Oh, that's nice. Let's rewind a little bit, if you don't mind, and talk about Kevin Sorbo, the early years. Where did you grow up?
Little town called Mound, Minnesota, which is about 25 miles west of Minneapolis, and it's a series of lakes all named together. It's called Lake Minnetonka, but each bay has its own separate name. But we're on the western shore of Lake Minnetonka. My little town was home to Tonka Toys, so there's a little trivia question.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was a great little town to grow up in. I mean, a town about 7,000 people, 5,000 would show up for our high school football games and basketball. I mean, it was a really supportive community of the sports, and for me, it was just a great place to grow up. In fact, we're headed back there this weekend. We're going to spend a week back home. We try to get back every summer, and my family sort of adopted that as their go-to place. They love going back there in the summers and hanging out. I've got some wonderful
really
friends
sweet.
there, and we got a good week of golf and boating and fishing all set up right now.
Oh, that sounds like great fun. Siblings? Did you have any brothers and sisters?
I did. I got 2 older brothers, older sister, then there's me, then my younger brother. So I'm the 4th of 5 kids, and we've all walked completely different roads of life. Where you couldn't get any more different career choices. You know, from my oldest brother who was a PhD in mathematics, became an actuary, to my youngest brother who was lieutenant colonel in the Army for 23 years. So we've done a whole different sort of road that we've each gone on. But we're still close. We still keep in touch, and there was never none of that sort of estrangement with us. But they're good. I'll see. Couple of them not in Minnesota because none of us live in Minnesota anymore. We all moved away. So
All moved to other places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happened to my family too.
Yeah.
We all moved from Ohio elsewhere and coast to coast. Let's talk about your faith journey, if
Sure.
you don't mind. When did you come to Christ, and tell us a little bit about that experience?
It's really what my whole life. Being a typical, I'm second generation Norwegian in America, and what most Norwegians did were Lutherans. So St. John's Lutheran Church was our church. Grew up with my parents were always very strong Christians. My father passed away over 10 years ago. My mom is still going strong at 92, and she lives there in Henderson, Nevada, by the way. And,
oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how I ended up in Henderson and how they ended up later on. But it's always sort of really been with me. I mean, I had two things that really affected me, I think, as a teenager. One was our youth pastor that came in, Pastor Lee. And this guy was, I think it was huge for a lot of us teenagers at that time, because our senior pastor really scared the hell out of all of us. He was just a really scary guy.
Literally.
Everything was fire and brimstone. I felt like breathing was a sin with him. So, but Pastor Lee was this young guy in his early 20s that really we could relate to him. You know, the guy who had a very just sort of relaxed quality about him. He brought the Bible in today's world instead of making it so archaic and so out of reach for us. You know, and then there was a time that our church went in to see Billy Graham speak. And Billy Graham,
oh, wow.
It was a hot August night, so here we are in August now as well. And yes, it gets very hot and humid in Minnesota. In fact, I just checked the schedule, the calendar. I know it's hot where you are, it's hot where we are in Florida, but they're expecting mid-90s the whole week that we're in Minnesota. So,
oh, that isn't what you had in mind.
It's going to be toasty. But remember, it was a hot August night. We're at the Minnesota St. Paul Fairgrounds, and it was outside. There had to be like 300,000 people there. It was amazing. I remember it was just the power of just that many people being in that area and having him speak. And when he finished speaking, he said, you know, we got a lot of volunteers up here, a lot of helpers. If you want to come down and pray, just talk, whatever. And I was only like 13 years old. It's something I normally wouldn't have done. For some reason, I just had to go up. And I walked up, I sat down, I'm talking to this guy. The guy was probably 30 years old. So for a 13-year-old, he was like a really old guy, right? So, and we were just talking. All of a sudden, a hand went on my head, and I turned around, and it was Billy Graham. And he had his security detail with him, as you would.
Sure.
But his head was perfectly behind the full moon. It was a full moon. So like the rays coming off his head, it was like, oh, you know. And I told that story when I got interviewed by Larry King years ago. And I get a call from the Larry Graham people. And it was Larry Ross. You probably might know Larry Ross.
Oh, yeah, the PR guy. Yeah,
PR guy down in Dallas. And he said, they're doing a Chicken Soup for the Soul book of Billy Graham. And Chicken Soup for the Soul was always 101 stories. And it's the only time they're ever done a hardcover book was for Billy Graham. And they said, he loved your story. He saw your story on Larry King. And he said, would you be willing to tell that story and be one of the 101 stories? So I was like completely honored. And so I did.
How do you say no to Billy Graham?
I know, and I wrote the 3-page story, and then I get a call from the Larry King, Ross people and Chicken Soup for the Soul, and they said, the Reverend's well into his 90s, he can't get around, but he would love it if you, because he was a fan of the stuff I've done with Hercules and all that, and And he said, and I said, would you go around and do the publicity for it? And I said, well, of course I would. So I got to do some of the publicity for that book, and it was an honor to do that. I never got to meet him again after meeting him as just a young teenage kid, but I know Franklin Graham pretty well, so I can definitely give him a call anytime, and he's become a nice little casual family friend.
Yeah, and I often say, there might be a short line in front of me in heaven thanking me for people that have come to Christ, but the one in front of Billy Graham is going to be second only to the Apostle Paul. Yeah. Can you imagine how many people have come to Christ because of Billy Graham? It's just astonishing. Yeah.
You just reminded me of a joke waiting that line. Can I tell that joke real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So this guy, he passes away. He's in the line to get into heaven. And the line's like forever long. And he says, what's going on? Why is it taking so long to get in? He says, lawyers. And the guy says, what? There are lawyers in heaven? And he goes, well, God felt sorry for one. And of course, once you bring one lawyer, and then everything just gets completely screwed up. That was pretty good. I love it.
That's a good one.
There are lawyers in heaven. What?
That's hilarious. We are with Kevin Sorbo, who's talking about his brand new movie called Miracle in East Texas. And we're going to delve into his testimony in some depth here in segment 2. We'll be back with Kevin Sorbo right after this.
So this is Texas.
Very flat. I just believe the hand of Providence has been guiding our every step. We're going to hit oil right here on your plate.
Doc Boyd and Daddy.
While they weren't much good at actually finding or drilling for oil, they both possessed an unusual facility for convincing people that they could do just that.
Oil! I've never felt it so strong in all my life!
Widows were the mother's milk of the petroleum hustle.
Love is not time's fool.
And now that they had a well, it was time to hit every widow they could find in a 3-county radius.
It's well. We can't bring it in. We've already sold close to 500%.
Yeah, so?
You can only have 100% of anything. I just wanted to be square with you because I care for you, man. Give you back the $1,000 I took.
Bet you swindled from other widows. I don't want you here. I want you out of my house.
We gotta take what we got and get it as far away from Texas as we can get.
You want me to walk away from it?
We're crooks. We've conned all those old ladies.
Yeah, we con those old ladies, because that's what we do. I'm an oil man.
Praise Jesus in all his glory.
Lotharios.
He's talking about you.
True hand-to-God miracle is what it is.
That's the gospel truth.
Leave the rest up to Jesus! God's own bounty.
Oil.
Black gold.
Amen. Amen.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson. We have Kevin Sorbo with us. What an honor it is to have him on the show. And if you didn't watch segment 1, rewind and watch it again. Because he had some funny stuff to say and some really insightful things. Let's talk a little bit about your backstory some more, Kevin, if you don't mind. In your testimony, I understand you've talked about your illness. Which really was a tough thing for you. Do you want to talk about that a little?
It was at the end of season 5 on Hercules. I lived in New Zealand 7 years filming down there, and I know it's a sin of pride, but by season 3 we did become the most watched TV show in the world in 176 countries. So I got to throw that in because it's kind of cool to be part of something like that. But season 4 is when I met my future wife Sam. And it was near the end of season 5, I was having all kinds of problems with my left shoulder. And, I was doing most of my own stunts on Hercules because my ego said that I could, and I enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun. And it was the athlete in me, I guess. And I had such an amazing group of stunt guys that made me look like a stud, like I knew what I was doing. It was just so much fun to do it. And this pain in my arm, I just kind of was blowing it off. It was something different, but I was always getting bumps and bruises and cuts and whatever, all different fight scenes. So I go back to America and I'm doing publicity on my first big budget movie called Kull the Conqueror, which is a prequel to Conan the Barbarian. Kull was Conan's father in the books and also in the comic books. And I was doing Letterman, Leno, all the talk shows. And I was on the East Coast, and my arm was just on fire. So the studio, Universal Studios, sent a doctor to my hotel room. And the guy's name was Dr. Dye. Number 1, change your name. You're a doctor. I don't care. It's D-Y-E. Dye. I mean, take your mother's maiden name.
That's a bad name for a doctor.
And he said, I think it's cardiovascular. You should get it checked out. Well, I get back to L.A. I go see my doctor in L.A. He finds a lump way up here in my left subclavicle, right next to my neck and the top of the shoulder. He says, we're going to have to do a biopsy on that. And that sort of freaked me out. I was like, okay. And then I went to see my chiropractor. And this chiropractor I've been going to for 8 years. And ever since then, I've never had my neck cracked. He's never cracked my neck. But I heard a voice in my head say, don't let him crack your neck, which was really weird. because he's never cracked my neck. The voice said again, don't let him crack your neck. All of a sudden he cracks my neck. Well, that crack had opened up, it was an aneurysm, had been spitting blood clots in my arm for months, very slowly, suffocating the flow of blood in my arm, certainly in my hand, my fingers. Well, that cracked what neurologists call retrograde flow for a second, forced clots to catch the other artery that feeds into the brain. I suffered 4 strokes. I was very fortunate. My speech came back rather quickly, but I had loss of vision in both eyes, and I had balance issues. It took me 4 months to learn how to walk and balance again. It took me 3 years to fully recover from it. It was a long road of recovery for me. And during that time, of course, I went through, I think what most people do, you blame God, you blame the world, you blame everybody, and this whole time there was God's voice trying to warn me not to get my neck cracked. And I ultimately wrote a book about it, it's called True Strength, My Journey from Hercules, a Mere Mortal, How Nearly Dying Saved My Life. And True Strength, you can pick up True Strength at sorbostudios.com as well. It's semi-autobiographical. Sam wrote some chapters. I had a couple other friends write chapters. But it's really, there's a book, a lot of humor, but it's about facing, roadblocks in life. Everybody's going to go through roadblocks in life. How do you react to that roadblock? It's easy to blame God. Blame a God you don't believe in all of a sudden, right? Blame family, friends, the government. But every time I got down, Sam said to me, Kevin, it happened to you. What are you going to do about it? And I grew up in a very athletic family, a very strong-willed father that just said, you work hard. I became very stubborn with a lot of things that I think helped make the success I had in sports and as an actor. And I just pushed myself way past what doctors told me to do in terms of my recovery. And it was a long road. It sucked. I always joke, I said I wouldn't wish what I had to go through on anybody. I said, well, except the Taliban, they could all get strokes. I'm okay with that. It was a long road. It was tough. I mean, it's been amazing because it's opened up this whole other road to me, which is speaking. I never thought of doing speaking events. I do about 12 to 15 speaking events a year for the last 11 years, and it's been amazing. And that went great. From initially it was like medical. I speak to doctors groups, I speak to nurses, the medical community, and talk about what I went through. And what did the fight to get back, and how do you react to that roadblock? But in my book, you can see I'm a Christian. So people said, would you come and talk to the church about this? And they said, oh, in your book, you see I'm pro-life. So most of the stuff I do now is pro-life. And it's been amazing to have that door open up to me because of something that happened to me that I never, number one, I didn't know what kind of recovery I would have. I remember that, Sam and I got married 4 months after the strokes. It was brutal for me to even walk down the aisle. It was just tough. And I even said at one time, I said, maybe we should put this on hold. And one of the doctors said to me, the neurologist, head of neurology at USC Medical Center in Los Angeles, he said, something that's always stuck with me, he said, never put your life on hold. And I thought, that's actually a great piece of advice. Because a lot of us say one day, but then pretty soon 20 years have gone by. And maybe sometimes you shouldn't say one day, you should do it now instead of waiting around for it to happen. So that was a huge piece of advice for me. And I say it for people all the time. I say, just keep plugging, keep moving along. Don't let anyone set your limitations. I think that's the biggest thing. And in this world we live in now, filled with so much anger and hate, I think people just give up. Failure is a positive thing. Failure is not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. You learn from those no's in your life. Every athlete in the world can tell you it was hard work. I failed and failed and failed. And for me, I had every door slammed on me in Hollywood. You're too young, you're too old, you're too tall. So I just kept pushing along.
Well, good for you. And that's an incredible story. And I'm really glad that it took you down the pro-life road. I know you spoke recently here at one of the crisis pregnancy centers in Las Vegas. And you're getting real positive feedback from your appearances at those dinners.
I mean, I'm the third largest fundraiser for the pro-life movement. I know, number one is Lila Rose. I mean, she's got an unbelievable message, a great following, and Abby Johnson's the other one. But I've been as the male part of it. It's interesting to hear my point of view on it. I think for these places, I've got one in Grand Rapids coming up, one in Kansas City, one in Houston. I mean, it's the rest of this year is already filling up pretty quick with speaking events.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about the recent years of Hollywood and give me your opinion on what you think is going on there. Disney is kind of anathema to Christians at large right now. The story of we had at our media fellowship luncheon, which happened to be yesterday here in Las Vegas. We had a speaker who was involved with the Sound of Freedom movie, and she talked about how Fox International was all in favor of doing that movie, distributing that movie, putting money behind that movie when they had the distribution rights, and then Disney bought them, as you'll recall, and then all of a sudden they wanted nothing to do with it. Talk about the Hollywood agenda, if you don't mind, which is really personified by Disney and
the irony of that is Disney put out Indiana Jones, and The Sound of Freedom has made more money in theaters than Indiana Jones. The Disney companies lost $900 million to date. Now with Indiana Jones, it's pushing well over $1 billion in losses. It's strange to me what's going on. By the way, Sound of Freedom filmed way back in like 2018 as well, 2019. And it took a long time for them to find money. Jim Caviezel and I had the same manager for many years. And before we left California, we were not too far apart neighbors. He was like just a few blocks away from us where we lived. And that movie, because of the cost it took them to get Disney to get it back to them and everything else, they needed to make $50 million on that movie before they even broke even. Well, they're at 175 million now, so I think they made their profits. And I think to have Angel Studios behind them, Angel Studios, because of The Chosen, has millions of donors that have kept The Chosen going and funded that completely through crowdfunding. So when Angel goes out and says, support this movie, those disciples of Angel pay attention. So for those guys, they have that sort of backing behind them, didn't hurt them. But they had a second wave of people when Hollywood basically came out and said, hey, we're for human trafficking. We're for having sex with kids. I mean, they went after this movie. You would think that's one thing we could all agree on.
I know.
That sex trafficking is horrible. But Hollywood comes out and starts bashing it. So I think a lot of people, whether they're Christians or not, whether they're independent, liberals, conservatives or not, that believe that human trafficking is horrible, said, you know what? The heck with you guys. And they went to see the movie in spite of that. I equate it to, you remember like 25 years ago, whenever it was, all the studios that do music on the CDs, because people were complaining about this is really dirty language, they had to post on there profanity, swearing in the CD. Well, every 13-year-old kid ran out and bought that
Yes,
CD.
I remember. Yeah, there were hearings before the Senate and things like that.
But those CD
Tipper
sales
Gore and all the rest of it.
Teenage kids said, "Oh, I want to get that one." Then I mean, you couldn't get better advertising. So it was interesting that they got the feed off of that. Movies that I do. What I said earlier with A Miracle in East Texas, we need people to go online. We need strong. I say the power of 10. I want everybody to go to sorbostudios.com, go to the link, buy your ticket now. You can put your zip code of whatever theater you're in, and you can get the ticket now and pass that on to 10 other people to say, hey, you keep this ball going, because this is a wonderful, wonderful, amazing, true movie, and people love it. But Hollywood doesn't want to do these kind of movies anymore. Why? I don't know. The movie that I directed called Let There Be Light, that Sam wrote, and we had Dan Gordon did a rewrite on it. Dan Gordon's an Oscar-nominated writer. And that movie opened number 2 per screen average. Here's a $2.3 million movie up against a $300 million Thor Ragnarok movie, and we were number 2 per screen average. Well, I get a call from Netflix the Monday after opening weekend saying, hey, we want to open an inspirational division here at Netflix. And I was like, awesome. So I had meetings with them. I had a number of meetings with them, but ultimately after 4 or 5 months, they did nothing. It was just like lip service. I mean, they made an announcement in the trade papers. We're going to, work with Kevin Sorbo and his Sorbo Studios, and we're going to really start doing some family movies. You got 80 million homes in America that want the kind of movies I do, and yet Hollywood turns their back on that because their ideology and hate has gotten so far insane that they'd rather put out their message of whatever that is just negative, filled with hate, filled with sex, filled with anger. This divisive label that they want to keep pushing and everybody pushes apart is just really sad to me. I don't get it. And I'm hoping that the tide is going to turn pretty soon, and more movies like that I'm doing, and what what the Irwin brothers are doing. I hope that more people will start fighting and saying enough is enough. We want movies that are good movies. I think people are getting tired of all these CGI movies.
Oh, I agree totally. And, it used to be that if you understood money, you understood Hollywood. I mean, they would do whatever it took in order to sell tickets. Well, you can deal with that, But now they seem to be willing to lose money in favor of pushing the ideology, which is very strange for me. It's like, you have enough money, Hollywood?
Do you know
that's a first.
People filing lawsuits, shareholders, stockholders in Disney, saying, explain to me, or to Target. They're going after Target right now too. Explain to me how, when you put transgender clothing for sale and your stocks plummet, because Target just came out, said it was their worst quarter like in a long time. And they said it's because of this push they did and the pushback they got when they put in transgender clothing. Like, it represents 0.025% of the population or something, and yet they want to give 100% of the effort towards that.
Very small.
You saw what happened with Bud Light. You saw it. It's like, I'm a live and let live kind of guy. Let people do what they want to do. But this constant pushing it down your throats, I think people are sick of that, and they're starting to show it with how they're going to buy clothes or beer or go to movies.
Yeah, I know. We need to take another brief break, Kevin. We're going to come back in just a minute. Kevin Sorbo is with us. Miracle in East Texas is the name of his latest movie. Please go to Fathom Events. Find out which theater in your community is going to be showing the movie here at the end of October, and buy some tickets. We'll be back with Kevin Sorbo right after this.
So this is Texas.
Very flat. I just believe the hand of Providence has been guiding our every step. We're going to hit oil right here on your plate.
Doc Boyd and Daddy.
While they weren't much good at actually finding or drilling for oil, they both possessed an unusual facility for convincing people that they could do just that.
Oil! I've never felt it so strong in all my life!
Widows were the mother's milk of the petroleum hustle.
Love is not time's fool.
And now that they had a well, it was time to hit every widow they could find in a 3-county radius.
It's well. We can't bring it in. We've already sold close to 500%.
Yeah, so?
You can only have 100% of anything. I just wanted to be square with you because I care for you, man. Give you back the $1,000 I took.
That you swindled from other widows. I don't want you here. I want you out of my house.
We gotta take what we got and get it as far away from Texas as we can get.
You want me to walk away from it?
We're crooks. We've conned all those old ladies.
Yeah, we con those old ladies, because that's what we do. I'm an oil man.
Praise Jesus in all his glory.
Lotharios.
He's talking about you.
True hand-to-God miracle is what it is.
That's the gospel truth.
Leave the rest up to Jesus! God's own bounty.
Oil.
Black gold.
Amen. Amen.
Welcome back to Las Vegas Tonight. I'm your host, Dale Davidson, and my very special guest is Kevin Sorbo, actor, director, producer, husband of Sam. He's a very busy guy, and when in his spare time he sleeps, which is never.
Never. Also author and father of 3.
That's right, author and father of 3. I've met Braden. Tell me about your other 2 kids.
I got Shane, who's my second oldest, and my youngest is Octavia. So they're 21. Actually, Braden's birthday is is next week. He turns 22.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Shane is 19, and Octavia is 17. So
Wow.
Keep us busy. I'm 6'3", and both my boys are taller than me, so there you go.
Yeah, when I saw Braden, I hadn't seen him for 3 or 4 years when I saw him a couple of weeks ago, and he turned into Hercules.
Yeah,
I looked at him, and he had the musculature that you had then. And
he's at the gym every day, and he's both boys are following my footsteps. Braden just did a 7th or 8th movie just recently, and Shane's done about 3 or 4 in his life as well. So
wow.
I wasn't surprised when they homeschool and they grow up on the movie sets when growing up while they're in school. So it's sort of been it wasn't surprised when it happened, but you know what, they're going after it, so good for them.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Braden has 2 million followers on TikTok, which is astounding. I mean, that is a lot of people paying attention to him.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm up to about 1.8 million now on Twitter. So people follow me Twitter. It's at KSorbs. All my buddies call me Sorbs instead of Sorbo. So KSorbs. Follow me on there. I do some pretty humorous 1 or 2 sentences every day on Twitter. Facebook took me down to over 2 years ago. So I lost.
Is that right? Yeah.
People there. Well, I was talking the truth about COVID, and I was on the side of what millions of other doctors were saying, and apparently that was misinformation. And of course, now everything that I was saying came true. So one of my tweets was, I need more conspiracy theories because everything I said has been.
I know. Yeah. They've squeezed me down too. I might as well be banned.
Zuckerberg's a wuss. I'll take him on. I know he's going to fight Elon Musk. I'd be more than happy to take him on.
Hercules versus that guy. I got my money on you.
He doesn't like the truth. So
no, he doesn't. No, he absolutely doesn't. Let's talk just a little bit more about the culture wars, if you don't mind. Fighting back is really what we all should be doing, and praying, of course. Praying for our nation. I've never seen it quite so divided as you and I have seen it today. We're coming into what's called the silly season, which is campaigning. Tell me what you think about the Democrats versus Republicans in the 24 election and what you'd like to see happen.
Well, I mean, number one, I'm still shocked about the whole Biden thing. I mean, are you kidding me? Kamala Harris, when she was up, and they had 13 people running a Democrat primary, and she was one of them.
Yes.
She was the first one voted off. She only had, I think, less than 2% of the vote. So 98% of Democrats don't want her as president, and she's
wanted somebody else
from becoming president.
Yeah.
I mean, her only qualification, according to Biden, when he said once he won the nomination, he said, "I'm going to pick a woman of color." I'm going, why don't you pick the best
regardless of qualifications?
A woman of color, great, but why? Just to pick it for that reason is
yes.
It's just insane what's going on in the world right now, and just the hatred. You look at California. Look, I'll tell you what. The common denominator is this: look at every state that is run by Democrats, whether it's the governor and along with the mayors of the major cities. You can go from Washington to Oregon to California, my home state of Minnesota, New York, Illinois. It's unbelievable. It's all Democrat run. And what's going on in each of those cities? Nothing but violence. Defund the police. You look at every single day, there's people just going into any stores and just stealing whatever they want, and they do nothing about it. And the crime in the streets, and the people just walk around killing people and attacking people with guns and baseball bats. It's just weird. There are 5 million people that are members of the NRA. Not one of them has committed mass shooting. Not one.
Yes.
Not one.
I know.
But they want to get rid of guns. Because if you get rid of guns, the only people that turn them in are the good people, right? You think bad guys are going to go, oh gosh, we got to turn our guns in now. The insanity that these people actually get voted in over and over again. Do I think there's voter fraud? I think there's been voter fraud for 100 years. I just think they just gotten better at it. But here's the thing for voting. Number one, it's not racist to show an ID. The Democrats say for the African Americans, I'm sorry, I'm Norwegian American, by the way, so I don't want to call just American anymore. It's crazy. I thought we're all Americans. But anyway, for them to sit there and tell the black people that you're too stupid to get an ID, there was 2 years ago, a guy went in the Bronx. I saw like 50, he went to 50 people living in the Bronx. hey, do you got an ID? And they said, of course I got an ID. Now the guy said, yeah, I mean, right there is the
driver's license, whatever. Yeah.
Anywhere. One guy laughed at it. Why is it you white people think we can't get an ID? It's not all white people. It's the Democrat Party. When Biden said that the Republicans want to keep the black population in chains, no. It's a Democrat Party, the party of the KKK, the party that didn't want blacks to vote, the parties that made blacks go to their own toilet and sit in the back of the bus. That wasn't conservatives. That wasn't Republicans. But they've done such a great job of brainwashing people and leading them down a different path. When you got the 90+% of the media is feeding you the stuff over and over and over again, you just become brainwashed with it, and you don't even want to think about another opinion or somebody else's opinion. That's the thing that's sad to me. There are other opinions out there. It doesn't have to just be one opinion on one side. Climate change? Okay, what about all these scientists that say climate change is ridiculous? Can't have that story. Why? Why can't we hear both sides and then you as the individual make up your mind? Right. Right now, the way the system is horrible. No more voting, mail-in voting. Get rid of that. But both parties aren't doing anything to get rid of it. You should vote on the day of the election, and that's it. You get one vote, walk in, show your ID, that's it. It's so easy.
That's the way it used to be.
If you got mail-in voting, it's so easy to cheat. And that's what's been going on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And we need to speak with civility. And that's probably the strongest negative that I've seen in the last 20 years. And I think social media has fueled that to some extent. I mean, you can hide behind your keyboard and be angry and type on all capitals and exclamation points,
They don't do that. You don't see them do that in person, coming up to people and going after them, do you? Nope, you don't see that.
No. Let's talk about the future and talk about Sorbo Films. What do you want to do in terms of motion picture releases? Are you open to looking at screenplays? Are they all projects that you've developed? Tell me what your business strategy is.
Well, I've read thousands of scripts, and I've kind of whittled it down to about 30 that I want to do. I'm not looking at other scripts right now because people send me scripts all the time. Right. If you want to send me a script and send the funding with it, then I'll look at it. I have a hard enough time trying to fund my own projects. Here's the weird thing. Why is it so difficult to raise $3 million for family movies? And yet you have a $300 million movie that shows so much violence and killing and hate and anger. I know. It blows my mind. So my biggest thing is trying to find the next funder. And every time we've been funded, it's always been a God thing. However kind of money comes to us, but it's not easy. But I have my own projects. That's where my focus is. I've been doing a lot of documentaries lately. I've got, last year I went back to Israel and spent 3 weeks there through archaeological digs. We followed the flow of the Ark of the Covenant, so it's going to come out this fall. It's called The Quest for the Throne. I've got another one. We got another one. It's a follow-up to the #1 documentary for 5 months back in 2022 on Amazon. That one was called Before the Wrath, dealing with the Second Coming. I highly recommend Before the Wrath. Well, this is the same Miller's company at Ingenuity Films. I just narrated the next one, dealing with the Last Supper, and this one's called Eating with the Enemy. I love the title they gave this thing.
Oh, wow, that's a great title.
It's pretty fascinating. Well, people forget that, these were kids. I think that's one thing that's good about The Chosen. It's showing the age group of the disciples that follow him. These weren't 80-year-old men with beards, white beards that you paint them as.
These are like 20-somethings.
Reading in the Bible books, the New Testament. These are guys that were like, hey man, this Jesus guy is cool, let's follow him. But once they were crucifying him, many people said, "Hey, you were with him." I don't know the guy. They
yeah, I know. Human nature.
The reality is, they all came around though. They all pretty much died horrible deaths for their belief in Jesus.
They did.
But at that time, they freaked out.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And documentaries are increasing in popularity. Yeah. I've noticed. I interviewed a fellow that turns out he was the son of Jackie Wilson, and is now doing a tour where he doing impressions of him, and they've decided to make a documentary of his life. So it's pretty fascinating that people like true to life stories, and docs are really fun to watch. Kevin, I mentioned this during the break. We've got about 3 minutes left. We've got millions of viewers. Many people don't know Jesus. I mentioned also to you that we're now being aired in mainland China. Many of those people don't know about Jesus. Could you spend just a couple of minutes talking about why having Christ in your life is important to you?
Well, you know, one of the documentaries I did with John Lennox. John Lennox is an apologist. He's a retired math professor from Oxford University. He holds like 5 doctorates, speaks 6 languages. He's an amazing guy. He has debated against the greatest atheists of the world, Dawkins and Hitchens and Singer and all these guys. I did a documentary with him, and it's called Against the Tide. I highly recommend Against the Tide. We spent 3 weeks in Oxford, England, and 2 weeks in Israel together. And I played the voice, not of the atheist. I played the voice more of an agnostic guy. Really just like, explain to me. I'm a little confused about this, you know. And this
where many people are, yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. And it's called Against the Tide, Proving God in a World of Science. So I highly recommend seeing that documentary, because you learn so much. I call it, the subtitle should be Apologetics for Dummies Like Me. It's a wonderful, it's a wonderful way to sort of guide your way through the understanding of Jesus, of God, and the importance of the religion and the belief in God. You know, started this thing. For me, I never wavered from my faith. I mean, I've done stupid things in my life. I'm a sinful. I mean, we're sinful by nature.
Sure, we all are.
You know, I just remember as a little kid even looking up at the stars. My mom said the first word I said was moon. It wasn't mom or dad or ma or pa or something. It was the moon, because I pointed to it all the time. And you look at that and you're going, are you telling me that you honestly believe this just happened? It just happened? Nobody started this? It's like the chicken and the egg thing. People, who started God? I said, honestly, I can't answer that question. One day I will know that answer when I get to meet him in person.
Yes.
But I said, somebody started this, and it wasn't you or me. I'm sitting at a desk right now. It didn't just appear. Somebody made this desk that I'm looking at right now.
Right.
And I always tell people all the time, I said, number one, don't let anyone set your limitations. But number two, don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid. There's a great poem by Robert Frost called "The Road Less Traveled."
Yes, great poem.
And it's about coming to that fork in the road. And one is just, obviously nobody goes down that road. Well, I always say Jesus was the one who took the road less traveled. He was the original guy. And he says that you will be attacked for your belief. You'll be mocked and ridiculed and all that stuff. Well, I tell people all the time, I know I'm walking down that road less traveled. I know you're, Dale, you're doing that too. And I want to turn that road less traveled into a super highway. But I can't do it on my own. I can get my word out there and tell the people to sit there and listen. I mean, but read the Bible. I remember, I love the churches in America. If you're traveling, especially out in the little country towns, they're on their little advertising, you know, the church, the name of the church. They always have funny little quips underneath that they put on there.
Yes,
and one guy,
some great ones.
Read the Bible; it will scare the hell out of you. So great! I love that, and I think just pick up the book and read it. It used to be our school book. Until we took it out of the schools in 1964, there were no public educated kids until, 100, 200 years ago. Homeschooling was the way to do it. You learned at home. Then the little country schools happened. And unfortunately now, public schools, they're just in indoctrination camps for kids. Look what they're doing to kids right now.
Yeah, and
these kids with
your wife is a strong advocate for that, that homeschooling.
So my wife's a homeschool advocate. I think one of the blessings of COVID is people woke up. They saw what's going on in our public schools. Now 2 million more homes are homeschooling now because they looked at what school boards are allowing and what teachers are teaching. When you were in school, when I was in public schools, teachers taught what they were supposed to teach. I didn't have any teacher tell me not believe in God. And any teacher tell me to vote this way. You know, if they taught math, they taught math. They taught civics. They don't teach civics anymore in school. You know why?
No.
Because the government doesn't want you to know it's we the people.
Yes.
We're the ones that should be in charge of what's happening to government. What's happening, our forefathers are flipping in their graves. What's happening to government? We have unbelievably corrupt officials on both sides of the aisle. Do I think Biden's corrupt? You better believe I do. The evidence is unbelievable. They go after Trump with all this stuff, but Hillary Clinton, all these people, they've all taken advantage of the law system, and because we put them in this position of power, for some reason they're above the law. And we need to, people, we need to change that and not be afraid. Too many people are afraid. Stop being afraid. The only thing to fear is God.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. That was very well stated. We really appreciate you. And we appreciate you being on the show. We want to mention one more time, this is a terrific movie,
Yep.
Miracle in East Texas. We're going to be showing the trailer. You can see that it's a comedy. There's some drama involved too. Sure. And it's really a terrific, terrific movie. October 29th is the opening. Go to Fathom Events and buy some tickets. Kevin Sorbo, thanks for joining us.
They can go to Fathom Events or they can go to sorbostudios.com. It's all right there. And very quickly, I've attended a lot of Comic-Cons in my life. Well, I'm doing the first Faith and Family Con in Knoxville, Tennessee, next May 24th. So go to riseupcon.com. That's riseupcon.com, and you can meet some of your favorite actors from Faith movies, favorite directors. And we're going to have a golf tournament that's going to be amazing. We're raising money for a foster care company based in Tennessee, and also a Tennessee pro-life event as well. So join us up there for the golf, and come to the con and see some of your favorite actors and directors.
Oh, what a great idea! I think you'll get a great turnout. That'll start something wonderful.
I'm hoping we do.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kevin Sorbo, for being on the show. Please give my best to Sam and your kids.
Will do.
And we'll have you on again for the next movie. How's that?
Love it.
Okay. God bless you. Thanks for coming. Kevin Sorbo, what a wonderful, wonderful guest. And as we try to remember to say each and every episode of Las Vegas Tonight, when it comes to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, please walk with him. God bless you.
So this is Texas.
Very flat. I just believe the hand of Providence has been guiding our every step. We're going to hit oil right here on your plate.
Doc Boyd and Daddy.
While they weren't much good at actually finding or drilling for oil, they both possessed an unusual facility for convincing people that they could do just that.
Oil! I've never felt it so strong in all my life!
Widows were the mother's milk of the petroleum hustle.
Love is not time's fool.
And now that they had a well, it was time to hit every widow they could find in a 3-county radius.
It's well. We can't bring it in. We've already sold close to 500%.
Yeah, so?
You can only have 100% of anything. I just wanted to be square with you because I care for you, man. Give you back the $1,000 I took.
That you swindled from other widows. I don't want you here. I want you out of my house.
We gotta take what we got and get it as far away from Texas as we can get.
You want me to walk away from it?
We're crooks. We've conned all those old ladies.
Yeah, we con those old ladies because that's what we do. I'm an oil man.
Praise Jesus in all his glory.
Lotharios.
He's talking about you.
True hand-to-God miracle is what it is.
That's the gospel truth.
Leave the rest up to Jesus! God's own bounty.
Oil.
Black gold.
Amen. Amen.
believe there are problems in this world that remain unfixed. I see plenty of food, but people still starving. I see cancer. I see families falling apart. I see people connected, but still isolated. I see ISIS, and it freaks me out. I see people without hope or purpose. I see that we are all desperate to fit in. I see that everything isn't okay around me and in me. But despite all of this, I have hope because there is a God who cares about us, me, you, who hates injustice, loneliness, and inequality so much that he didn't just leave us in the struggle alone, but entered our struggle with us. As Jesus, he suffered injustice, pain, and laid down his life for us, even though we were the ones who created the problems and we were the ones who deserved the consequences. But he rose again and conquered death in order to restore humanity to his original purpose, one person at a time. So why do I believe this? I've seen hope restored and lives transformed. I've seen fractured relationships healed. I've seen people make it through troubled times because of God's peace. I've seen people forgive atrocities. I've seen God answer prayers. I've seen sickness healed. I've seen broken people find God's love, acceptance, and peace. I have found God's love, acceptance, and peace. I've experienced this transformation for myself, and I believe it can happen for you too.
Come on and shine, shine, shine. Las Vegas, shine your light on me.
You've been watching Las Vegas Tonight with your host, Dale Davidson. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of our show. We so appreciate your loyalty to our program. To keep Las Vegas Tonight on the air, please go to our website, vegassaints.org, and click the Donate button. To send a check or money order, please make it out to Dale Wynn Davidson Ministries and mail it to 9030 West Sahara Avenue, Suite 255, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89117. To suggest a guest to appear on the show or any other suggestions or questions, write to Dale at dalewdavidson@yahoo.com or call him at 702-480-3989.
Shine, Las Vegas, shine.